Good evening, America and the rest of the world. I'm Xander J. Hobson here, stand-up comedian, entertainer, director and producer of boxing documentaries and internet troll to those who need internet trolling. This is another episode of The Devil's Advocate, brought to you by the Brilliant Artist Movement. Folks, listen, I'm trying to grow this here platform, so subscribe, like this video, hate this video, share it. Leave a comment in the comments section. It could be something nice or it could be something nasty, but just know, to all my detractors out there, if you say something slick, I'm for it. I'm the troll's troll, and trolling me will not be tolerated. So anyway, right, I wanted to talk about people who steal jokes and people who steal other people's content. Now, first of all, if you're asking me, these type of individuals are the lowest form of scum on earth. And what we should do with people like that is take them somewhere quiet and shoot them in the back of their head. It's that serious. Because when you steal somebody's joke and you steal someone's content, you took their creativity. And that's not cool. That's akin to raping an individual, believe it or not. It's that serious. And in some case, you might kill a guy because you get some up-and-coming comedian in a nightclub telling a joke that he or she thinks is going to propel them to the next level, and then you get some scumbag like Carlos Mencia, who's on a larger platform, and they steal that person's joke, and they make a lot of money, they get TV shows and a lot of notoriety. Big thumbs up to Joe Rogan for calling out Carlos Mencia. The joke stealing and the content stealing, that's a big problem. I heard people complain about Amy Schumer stealing jokes. I heard Cat Williams complain about Cedric the Entertainer stealing jokes. And the most recent thing I heard concerning joke stealing was Corey Holcomb complaining about Bill Bellamy stealing his jokes. So it's a big thing. Now, while we're on the subject of joke thieves, right? The one joke thief that you have to give a thumbs up to is comedian Robin Williams. Because from what I gathered, Robin Williams was a notorious joke thief, but the one thing that he did do, Robin Williams would at least pay the comedians that he stole the jokes from. And this is what I heard. I don't know if this is true or not. So anyway, in this modern wave of people who are seeking fame and fortune by way of stand-up comedy and YouTube, you have a lot of people accusing folks of stealing jokes or stealing their YouTube content. And to quote comedian Tony Rock, are we talking about stealing, or are we talking about people who are talking about the same thing? Well, I know firsthand that the stand-up comedy field is saturated with a bunch of comedians. And YouTube, World Star, TikTok, Facebook, they're also saturated with a bunch of people who are trying to come up via their creative talent. And again, it goes back to Tony Rock. Are we stealing people's material and content, or are we talking about the same thing? Now, I tend to lean toward what Tony Rock said. I think it's safe to say that you got a lot of people who are talking about the same thing. For example, right? This is a model of an Imperial Star Destroyer. And if you had a whole bunch of Star Wars fans who decided that they wanted to tell jokes about an Imperial Star Destroyer, well, a lot of those jokes are going to be similar in nature. And the only difference in those jokes will be the people's perspective that they bring to the commentary. Yeah, we all talking about an Imperial Star Destroyer or a model of an Imperial Star Destroyer, but we all have our own perspective. So again, Nobody's stealing from anyone. We're just talking about the same thing. Most recently, in YouTube, you had Tommy Sotomayor. He was making a huge fuss, and he insisted that Kevin Samuels had stolen talking points from him. Tommy Sotomayor even going as far as to say that Kevin Samuels had inserted himself into some stories that were actually the experiences of Tommy Sotomayor. Now, if this is in fact true, because I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't know enough about Kevin Samuels or Tommy Sotomayor to say if this is true or not. But if this is true, Kevin Samuels is a lousy, lying sack of shit, and people shouldn't take him seriously. But the flip side is Kevin Samuels and Tommy Sotomayor, they're both talking about relationships between men and women. And it is my opinion, it is my experience that men talk about women and women talk about men, and it's all the same shit. Lying, cheating, the good times, the bad times, children. How many ways can you talk about that? If you have 10 different people talking about the same thing, at some point, the stories are going to overlap. We see it all the time. Oh yeah, my son does that too. Oh man, I hate it when my husband does that. You mean to tell me that your wife snores too? So, it's nothing new about that. I was looking at some footage, and Ari Spears was talking about how someone got upset with him because he didn't want to take them on the road with him. And Ari Spears' position was, hey, listen, man, we both got a similar comedy. I'm not going to have you get up on stage and talk about this cup for 15 of the 20 minutes of your set, and then here I come up there trying to do my set, and now I gotta try to talk about this cup, and you done already talked about it for 15 minutes. So I understand Ari Spears' position, and I understand any comedian's position. As a matter of fact, a good friend of mine, a comedian, very good comedian by the name of Charmaine Hurricane Maine, great comedian. She said she just recently went to a comedy show, and she said she enjoyed the show, but midway through it, she started getting bored because all of the comedians were on stage pretty much talking about the same thing. So, with that said, I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, right, with a shameless plug. I was up in New York this past Monday, hanging out with my main man and somewhat of a mentor, Smokey Suarez. And it was this young lady, young Haitian sister. She got on stage and she was killing it. Now, this young lady was giving her perspective about being a Haitian growing up in America. Guess what? I got another friend, comedian, my main man, Sam Simonville. Sam Simonville talks about being a Haitian growing up in America. Got two people talking about the same thing, giving their own perspective. The young lady giving it from her perspective, Sam Simonville giving it from her perspective. The story gets better. Midway through this young lady's set, and believe me folks, her set was great. I hate the fact that I don't know her name, but I want to find her name and put it in the caption. But midway through this young lady's set, this young lady talks about taking a dump, butterball naked.
Taking a dump is probably one of the most disgusting things you can do, but it's something that we all been doing our whole life. So I found, I try to make it as enjoyable as humanly possible. So when I gotta go and tend to my natural bodily functions, what I like to do, I like to get a scented candle, something to read, and I strip down butterball naked. And I have...
Whoa, guess what? Xander Hobson has a set that he does talking about going to the bathroom butterball naked. Now, not for a second did I think that this young lady stole my set. And I didn't steal her set. But again, you have two people who are talking about the same thing from their own perspective. So I figured I'd just share that with you, man, because you hear people talking about this stealing. And again, if a person is stealing another comedian or another YouTuber's content, I think we shouldn't take that person seriously. In fact, I think we should do something real nasty to that person. But in the end, right, if you got two people that's talking about the same subject, hey man, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles, man. There's no way you can steal somebody else's content when you're both talking about the same thing. Again, this here is a credit card. And I'm sure that everybody looking at this video can talk about a credit card. And at some point, what we're saying about the credit card is going to overlap. So, with that said, folks, I'm done with it. Bam!